Ooh, okay. Yeah, this is a big one. Let's go, boys. You know I'm playing Hikaru. I'm gonna play it. Alright, d5. -3. I wonder if he's gonna play g6. Alright. We got the classic. They could play d4 here. d4 is interesting. Yo, if he plays the perfect Irish Stonewall, I'm going to be very impressed. He's really done his due diligence then. c5. Can't I play d5 here? Yeah, d5 is tricky though. If I take, then takes. I'm a little worse there. I think I already misplayed this. Okay, let me just castle. I'll just take back. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to put a knight on e5. It says knight going to f5. All right, we'll put the bishop on e3. Bishop comes back to f2. Can I play? Okay, no. Here, yeah, knight f5 is going to be a real splash of cold water here. He's playing this extremely well. He really knows what he's doing in this system. I play queen d2. I'm going to just stick my rook on d1. If he wants to take the bishop, he's welcome to. Let's get the bishop out of the way. Should my bishop... I think my bishop should come here. Okay, yeah, let's move it here. Oh yeah, I'm slightly worse. I'm a little worse. It's not the end of the world, though. I don't think my position is that bad. I have some weak light scores, but my knight is so good on e5. Knight wants to come to f5 sooner or later. We play bishop h4 and try to trade it. Knight f5, then I take on d5, and you know things peter out. I think I should be okay. Oh, even then, knight d6. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna take. Put the bishop back on f2. Knight comes to d6. It's still a little. It's a little ugly. It's a little ugly, but I mean, I don't think I should be losing though. But it's yeah. This I wish I could have shown Hikaru a better game though. I'm a bit tense, honestly, as you might imagine. Oh god, the knight comes to d6. That's a real problem. Is there any way I can just improve the... If I can improve this bishop, then everything becomes all right. Okay, I'll play rook c3. This is a bit really uncomfortable, honestly. But okay, knight d6. I need to start playing for something here. King needs to come to d3. Oh, knight b5. Ugh, knight b5. This guy plays so quickly and so well. King e2 takes. My hand is shaking. I think this is what always happens when I play against Magnus or Hikaru. The first time it's just going to be too much nerves. The second time around, though, I'll get them. Alright, I'll play King e2. Whatever. It's not ideal, but, you know, we'll take it. Oh, what am I doing? Okay, well, knight e2... Knight e2 actually isn't that simple. Oh, I can't believe this. I embarrassed you, you bird brethren. I gotta review this, though. The problem was that he immediately took me into a line I had no idea about. Okay, I gotta take this way. My king needs to be able to get out. He really wants to take that pawn, doesn't he? If he takes, I play bishop e1, he plays a5. Then I'm thinking king d4, knight, oh, knight b4. Okay, knight b5. No, this is much better than before here. Okay, king d4. I'm gonna come here. He could play knight e6. I'm gonna take it. I'm just gonna run for this. I'm playing f5. Okay, bishop h4. b5, a5. This is getting really wacky here. All right. This is a mess. This is an unmitigated mess. Okay. How does my bishop get around here? King d2. Ugh. His king is getting around. Yeah, this, I think I'm losing. King d4, king e4, I should be losing, but... Oh, why did I do that? Oh, that was so silly. Yeah, this position. I gave him a better fight than Magnus, at least, though. Magnus, my nerves are on edge, as you can tell. I think I haven't played him I played him once on ICC. Alright, yeah, this is over. Alright. Oh, that was tough. That was tough.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Let's go over the game. This was insane. Only looking at it now a few weeks later, am I now realizing that I was drawing that endgame. It's pretty crazy. Let's get into it. So I played f4. My opponent plays d5. The great Hikaru, knight f3, g6, e3, bishop g7. And yeah, I mentioned this in the game, but he has really done his due diligence. He played exactly what Stockfish recommends on really high depths. This is the best move according to Stockfish. And now, according to my really deep level analysis, White's supposed to play knight c3, knight e7, and then there's some really wacky stuff with like b4, b6, and rook b1. And according to the computer, White is very, very, very slightly objectively worse. This is just a nuts position, though. I really have no reservations recommending this in my Bird lifetime repertoire, because the idea is, this position is just so wacky. Who is ever going to know how to play this? It doesn't matter whether it's minus 0.1, which it is at higher depths. I think it even goes down to like minus 0.08 or something. But regardless, these positions are super wacky. It might seem hard to play as White, but if we flip the board around, this is also super hard to play as Black. Really, no one has any idea what's going on. I do know something, though, and that's Hikaru has done his research and actually had prepared against this. Maybe not for me specifically, but he studied this position because he knew to play e6 immediately here, which is pretty incredible. Just, these world-class level players are so well prepared. I had forgotten what to play. I had looked at this literally like a month or two ago when doing my Bird course, and I had forgotten that I was supposed to play knight c3, rook b1, and the b4 stuff. Only after seeing the game did I check back on my notes to the course, and then I realized, actually, you're not supposed to go for the Irish Stonewall here. So already after the Irish Stonewall, I should be slightly worse here. He took on c4, and now all of a sudden I'm equal. Notice that. World-class player. On move 5 already, he makes a slight mistake. This is the bird, baby. This is what happens. When you play a system that just you haven't studied in depth, you're going to naturally play 3, 4, 500 points below your normal level. I took with the bishop. He played c5. And yeah, computer is saying that castles... Chess.com is saying that castles was a slight mistake. I really don't see it, though. I was considering d5, but the problem is this e4 square is going to become very weak. So takes, queen takes, bishop takes, knight f6, and he drills his knight into e4. If I had time to play knight c3, e4, and e5, I would be doing fantastic, but the whole problem is that this e4 square is just too weak. He'll take, move his knight to a6 to cover this threat, and very soon he's going to play bishop f5, castle, knight b4, and I'm going to be really suffering. Perhaps I could try e4 here, but even then I'm a bit too behind in development. He'll play b6, bishop b7, threaten to capture my knight, invade with knight b4, and this bishop also. This just is not a healthy setup. I want to be able to play e5 to lock the bishop in against my f4, e5 cement, but of course the problem there is that then I would completely undermine this knight and its station on the golden square of d5. So instead, I castled, my opponent took, e takes. I should have taken with the knight, apparently. That's news to me. That's a bit strange, but the structure looks a little bit better here. Now if I can play knight c3... queen e2, e4, and rook d1, I'm going to be doing well. But yeah, I didn't know to do that. I was too focused on I was too full of the vinegar. The one good thing about these pawns here is that my knight is going to come into e5. The drawback, though, of course, is that I'm getting a notably bad structure here with massive weaknesses on the light squares. I gotta always choose the right color. We have massive weaknesses on the light squares, and I'm playing someone who's extremely well-trained in such positions. When you're playing world-class grandmasters, you really want to avoid playing positions that are remotely orthodox, because they're going to know exactly what to do. My opponent immediately just plays knight e7. It literally takes him a second. He knows exactly what to do here. The light squares are what he wants to go for here, and he does not want to block the bishop in the eventual usurping of these squares. Knight c3, castles, bishop e3, and putting all my pieces on good squares here. Knight c6, queen d2. Yeah, I should have just stomached a bad position and played bishop f2. Now all the steam is taken out on knight f5, and if he throws it in too soon, I can play d5 and immediately liquidate. This would have been better. I didn't think to do this, though. I was still playing too calmly. I need to really appreciate the fact... I'm misspeaking. I need to really appreciate the fact that in this position I am already slightly worse, and I need to just digest the fact that that is the reality, and I need to play moves that are a bit defensive for the sake of just keeping everything solid, and that's why bishop f2 would have been great. b6, rook d1, bringing my rook in. I'm still thinking about liquidating. He plays bishop b7. I would love to play d5, but the whole problem is that that runs into knight a5, kicking my bishop out, and d5 will be gobbled up sooner or later. If I play bishop e2, he takes the pawn. Computer is saying this isn't that bad after bishop d4, but no one wants to play a position down a pawn against Hikaru. That's just definitely no fun. So instead, I threw my knight to e5. My opponent played rook c8. I dropped my bishop back to e2. This is a very good idea. I want to fight against his strong light-squared bishop. That's fianchettoed on b7. He played knight b4, drilling in on the d5 square. Bishop f3, takes, knight d5. Yeah, it's starting to look much worse. On the one hand, it was nice to at least get rid of that strong bishop, but I'm still left with these light square weaknesses. Yeah, this position is really, really uncomfortable to play, because the thing is that no matter like how things twist or turn, I'm always going to be left with a few weaknesses. I do have this great knight on the e5 square, but that isn't going to compensate for everything. Bishop f2, queen c7, bishop h4. This was objectively just a mistake. The knight is just going to come to f5 and kick my bishop out. I should have played something more sober. The computer recommends something like queen e2, h3, even bishop e1, just to help cement the c3 knight. That would be a very hard move to find, though. So bishop h4, knight f5. We trade bishop f2. I should have played bishop e1. Look at that move. The idea is that I just want to, stalwart. What is the word? I want to stave off his play. I don't want to stalwart. I don't know what that was about. I want to stave off his play on the c-file. And so I need to really cover this square. The idea, of course, is I'm going to play rook c3 very quickly. If something like queen c2, I could play rook c3, and for instance, after takes, 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 takes. It's still ugly. I still got some weaknesses here, but it's only minus 0.36. This is survivable. I might be able to hold on here. So instead, though, I played bishop f2. He plays queen c2. He's starting to invade, and we're starting to see the problem. The light squares in themselves are not the biggest issue, but my pieces are just going to be too detained guarding all these other things that when he invades on the c-file, I'm going to start to have too many problems. I'm going to be like one of those jugglers, juggling too many balls, and all of a sudden, as soon as I start to lose control over one, they all fall to the ground, and none of the spectators are going to give me any money at the end of the day. So rook c3, queen takes d2, rook takes d2, rook takes, pawn takes. I'm still left with some weaknesses. I have a weak light square here, a weak light square here. The d-pawn, which previously was a bit weak, is now reinforced, but we have a new weakness here on the c-file, on c3. He played rook c8. I cannot understand for the life of me why I did not play rook d3 here. I guess it was that I didn't want to block my knight from coming to this square. This wouldn't even be a particularly good square, though, for the knight. But my idea was that if I leave my rook here, then the knight can come to d3. Computer is saying rook c2 is best, but from a practical perspective, I'm just putting myself in the dragon snare with this, because now there are going to be lots of issues with this pin. After knight d6, I immediately blundered with king f1. I need to play bishop e1, preemptively dealing with the knight b5 idea. The whole problem is that after king f1, now we have a lot of threats. If knight b5, after knight b5, which is what my opponent immediately played, Hikaru, super strong tactical player, he immediately spots the inaccuracy. He's threatening c3, but if I defend c3 with bishop e1, he just snacks on d4. And for those of you who don't know, a snack in Hikaru is the worst type of Hikaru. When he snacks, we're just going to lose pretty much immediately. So instead I played king e2. I just am gambiting up the pawn. Things are getting worse and worse here. He trades the rooks, takes, king d3. And in this position, I should be really close to lost. If he takes on a2, I'm going to play knight c6, and maybe somehow or other I can still hold on here, because I'm attacking the pawn, and my king can chase after his knight here, which is a bit trapped on a2. But instead, he plays another great move. He just chops on e5 first. Fantastic play by Hikaru. I take back. At least now my king might be able to invade. And he played knight b5. This was the one mistake of the game. He should just take on a2. I was thinking I could trap his knight with something like bishop e1 covering this b4 square. And if he plays a5, perhaps I can play king c2 and king b2. The thing is his knight is going to get airlifted out, and I'm only going to be winning a pawn. So he has a very simple plan here. He's just going to create play over on this side of the board before I have time to deal with it. He'll play f6. If I take, he's just going to capture my pawn anyway. And so I would play something like king b2, knight b4, takes, king b3, takes, king f7. And obviously this is just hopeless. He's going to be up a pawn and run this pawn down the board. So this would have been winning for him, but he missed it. He got too full of the vinegar himself, and he played knight b5. And now all of a sudden I have some chances here. After a4, king d4, I felt that I would have chances to draw, but I still wasn't certain. I am only down one pawn here, but the position is really opening up, and I have the classic advantage of bishop against knight. Bishops are much better long-range pieces, so in the endgame, on open boards, bishops are much better than knights. Here I played f5, takes, and his knight is really, really bad here. I thought that this perhaps was a draw, but as we can see, the second thing, there's something else what am I saying? Beckon or begins? Something else begins to become an issue here, which is my time. I'm very low on time here. I think that if I had more time, I could have confidently drawn this position. a6, bishop e1. And yeah, his knight is just completely paralyzed here. He has a weakness on d5. It's going to be very hard for him to mobilize anything. My pawn on a4 works perfectly to keep the knight out of the square. He's going to bring the king to c6, and my pawns are now placed perfectly here. His knight cannot come to either of these squares to kick my knight out, and eventually clear the way for his king to invade via c5 and b4. I played bishop h4. Apparently here I have e6. Look at that. Takes and f6. And this is a draw. That is beautiful. King d7. I think I was thinking about this. I remember during the game I was considering this. Bishop g3. I'm attacking the knight. I'm threatening to take and play f7. And if he plays... Well, he can't play knight e8 because I just play f7. And all of a sudden I'm better. Which is crazy. But this... No, this must be a draw. There's no way that in this type of position, when I have three pawns, or when I have a piece for 3 pawns, but with only 1 pawn left, that, or 2 pawns left, I should say, that this is going to be winning. Yeah, he would have to find knight a8 here. But he's just trapped. Look at that. King e5, b5, I play a5, I keep his knight locked out. Computer is saying I'm supposed to take on b5. I don't know what's going on here. Y'all can analyze this at home. Apparently, chess.com is pretty much... The chess.com computer is convinced here that this is just an equal. I would assume also bishop e5 should be equal. King e8, I'll just leave his king there. I'll put my pawn on h3. If he ever plays b5, I play a5. His knight is always locked out here. Yeah, he's just frozen here. And after, yeah, b5, a5, my king has a way in. So this looks like a strategic draw. That's crazy. I could have drawn Hikaru. Anyway, in the end, though, that wasn't meant to be. Bishop h4, knight e8. He takes. I bring my bishop back. I should have played bishop e7, slicing through here. Covering b4, covering the king's advance. But I had 11 seconds. Just my nerves caught up to me. I think if I had more time, I definitely would have found that move. Bishop e1, king c5, king f4. Even here, apparently it's a draw. I just need to play king c2 here. And I'm going to go after these pawns of king e5, king d3. Takes, I play e7. And yeah, look at that. That's crazy. This is still a draw here. This is insane. The idea, I think, is that after king f7, king c3, knight g7, king d4, knight f5, takes, takes. Yeah, I'm only down a pawn, and because there's so few things left on the board, I'm going to have a lot of chances to sacrifice my bishop at the proper time to get rid of his 2 remaining pawns. So I believe that's why these positions are a draw. Of course, playing against someone as strong as Hikaru, he'd still figure out a way to squeeze Rada from a stone and perhaps create winning chances and maybe even win the game. But it would have been worth a shot. In the end, though, I make one more fatal mistake, king e2, and now when his king comes to gobble up my pawns, it's just going to take me too long. b3, king d2, king e4, king c3. And yeah, I should have played e7, but I just am too far away. I cannot get my bishop to b4 in time. So yeah, that's the way the game ended. Takes, takes, and now this is relatively simple for Hikaru. He's up 2 pawns. 2 pawns is way too much for having a bishop against knight advantage to bridge, and yeah, this is just beyond salvation at this point. King f5, king e3, d4. We get all the way down here. He's slowly pushing his pawns up, and yeah, this is just over. King e2, check, and there's no way for me to stop these 2 pawns. King e2, he made a queen. And, of course, if I take, he's just going to make a queen on the other square. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a crazy experience for me to play one of the world's best players. This reaffirms to me, if anything, the overall soundness of the bird. There were several chances that I had against him to draw, and if I had remembered the opening better, I would have gotten a decent position straight out of the opening. So, hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you at the next one. Take care, everybody.